Renegade Immortal, Chapter 635, Location of Zhou. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. These finger-sized insects could change their colors and were extremely unpredictable when they dispersed into clouds. One often couldn't tell the difference between the cloud and the cliff with one's eyes. Most of the time, with just a blur, the cloud of insects would have already pounced on you. After these insects appeared, they split into 5 groups and charged toward everyone. Jian's expression greatly changed and his face became extremely pale. He had personally witnessed how powerful these insects were. The puppet had all its flesh and soul devoured seconds after the insects drilled into its body. At this moment, he slapped his bag of holding without any hesitation and took out the life-saving jade the All-Seer gave him. This jade only had 3 uses. He had used one long ago, and now was the second time. The jade gave off a rainbow-colored light and immediately shrouded Jian's entire body. At the moment the rainbow-colored light appeared, all of the insects grouped together instead of scattering. They all surrounded the rainbow-colored light around Jian, and then sounds of crunching came from the rainbow-colored light. This sound caused Jian's scalp to go numb. He immediately shouted, "Save me, Brother Murong, save me!" Zhou hesitated for a bit before his right hand formed a seal and pressed it forward. The celestial spiritual energy in his body cycled, and then a handprint made of black gas appeared. As his hand pressed forward, the black handprint shot out toward Jian, who was surrounded by the insects. There was a loud bang as the black handprint actually went through the insects and even went through Jian as if they were all transparent. The black handprint went through everything and landed in the gap in the wall behind Jian. This strange scene caused Zhou's expression to suddenly darken. He stared at those insects with an extremely ugly expression. As for Zhou Xuan, she looked at the insects with a profound gaze. As for Xu Fei, there was a hint of calculation in her eyes, but it soon disappeared because Wang Lin's gaze seemed to sweep past her at that exact moment. All of this happened in an extremely short period of time. When Wang Lin saw the insects completely ignore Zhou's spell, his eyes immediately lit up. Zhou took a step forward, and then his hand formed many seals. He used spell after spell, sending various attacks at the insects. However, without exception, all of them flew right through the insects. The crunching sound continued, and the rainbow-colored light around Jian rapidly dimmed. Jian revealed a glimmer of despair, but at this moment, his mind suddenly became clear. He turned toward Wang Lin and anxiously shouted, "Wang Lin, I know some secrets of Master. If you save me, I'll tell you all of them." Wang Lin completely ignored Jian and looked at the insects instead. These insects were extremely strange. At first, they dispersed to attack everyone, but when they saw the rainbow-colored light from Jian, they all immediately gathered. Zhou Xuan played with her hair and softly said, "After these insects devour senior apprentice brother Du, we will be the next targets. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid there won't be another chance." Just at this moment, the rainbow-colored light around Jian completely collapsed. His mind trembled as he immediately activated the last use of his life-saving treasure, causing the jade to shatter. However, the crunching sound was like a knell that echoed in his heart, causing Jian's heart to beat rapidly. Jian clenched his teeth and said the biggest secret in his heart. "Wang Lin, I know the secret of your purple division. I know why Sun Yun betrayed Master back then. If you save me, I'll tell you all of it." Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he looked at Jian. He waved his right hand, and an extremely bright golden symbol appeared in his hand. This golden symbol was one of the 11 golden symbols from the cave. This golden symbol was so bright, like the sun. It lit up all the darkness in the area. The insects surrounding Jian all let out violent buzzes and quickly charged at the golden symbol in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He knew that his judgment was correct. These insects were very sensitive to light, or more accurately, they fed on light. Wang Lin backed up several steps as he slapped his bag of holding and a crystal brush appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, several more golden symbols appeared. The insects split off into groups as they surrounded each symbol and began devouring them. Wang Lin's right hand continued to move, and symbols were formed one by one. There actually weren't a lot of insects at all, only a few hundred. However, because they were each the size of a fingernail and had an illusionary appearance, it looked like there were thousands of them. The insects all swarmed around more than 10 symbols and began devouring them. This scene startled everyone, especially the two women. For the first time, the two women revealed the same expression: shock. These identical expressions landed in Wang Lin's eyes, and they startled him. He finally understood why he always got this weird feeling from these two. But he didn't have the time to deal with this matter. He immediately moved forward, arriving next to Jian, and his hand reached out. Jian was, after all, a disciple of the All-Seer. He was the 7th disciple of the Red Division. Although he hadn't reached the Ascendant stage, his spells were still amazing. At this time of crisis, he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out some Origin Soul blood essence. This blood floated in the air and behaved like it was boiling and took the shape of little spheres. Even with Wang Lin's 80s cleaning, if he were to touch them, there would be holes in his body. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. The blood Du Jian spat out was immediately blown to the side with a wave of his sleeve. These spells that use the Origin Soul blood essence weren't very complex. Almost every cultivator knew them. But these are the spells that injure the user the most in order to kill the enemy. Du Jian took this chance and immediately backed up. He slapped his bag of holding, and pieces of black sarcoma appeared in his hand. There was reluctance to part with it. Although it was ugly, it was filthy flesh he had spent decades refining. If only a tiny bit of it stained a cultivator, they would be immediately covered and invaded by filth. It was an extremely vicious magical treasure. At this moment, he clenched his teeth and threw it all into the air. The sarcoma all exploded in the air, and a cloud of filth immediately rushed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes became even colder. As he stepped forward, he pointed at the filth with his hand, and the underriver appeared. The underriver quickly swept all the filthy flesh away. The underriver was already the most filthy river in the world. When the sarcoma entered the underriver, it not only weakened it, it made it stronger. Du Jian was indeed very strong among those of the same cultivation, and this sarcoma treasure would make it so that he would never lose. However, before someone who had their own Da like Wang Lin, it's simply not qualified to deal with Wang Lin unless he took that last step: break the barrier around his heart and step into the Ascendant stage. Wang Lin's right hand moved like lightning as he grabbed Du Jian, whose eyes were filled with despair. He didn't ask any questions and activated his celestial spiritual energy to immediately cut off Du Jian's origin soul from his body. Then he slapped his bag of holding and took out the restriction flag. With a wave, countless restrictions flew out, forming a sphere of restrictions just like the one that trapped Yao Shishe. Then Wang Lin threw it into his bag of holding. Wang Lin did all of this very fast and neatly. Even though Zhou wanted to say something, it was already too late. Wang Lin turned around and waved the brush in his hand, causing the symbols to fly back to him. The insects completely ignored everything that was going on and simply mindedly devoured the golden light. However, these golden lights seemed to be infinite. No matter how much they devoured, it wasn't diminishing at all. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and extended his left index finger. A finger of death shot out and went directly through the golden symbol as if it wasn't there. This scene of the spell obviously going through the symbol and all the failures from Zhou's spells immediately caught the attention of the two women. There was a hint of shock in Zhou's eyes as he said, in a serious tone, "Spell immunity." After he said that, there was a hint of greed in Zhao Yiquan's eyes. As for Su Fei, her expression was neutral, but her pupils shrank. Only Zhou had no greed in his eyes, only shock. Fellow cultivators, let us continue. Wang Lin's expression was normal. The more than 10 golden symbols surrounded in insects circled around Wang Lin. This gave Wang Lin a very shocking presence. Wang Lin's body began to descend. Zhou didn't say anything and did the same. As for the women, Zhao Yiquan and Su Fei, they hesitated but followed. However, they kept a distance from Wang Lin. They were clearly afraid of him. Spell immunity? As Wang Lin flew, he secretly shook his head. He didn't believe that there were beasts that had spell immunity, let alone these insects. If the spell had no effect, then the only truth was the spell wasn't strong enough. Wang Lin gathered Ling Tang Hao's sword energy into his fingers and touched one of the insects. The insect immediately trembled, but didn't die. Wang Lin revealed a hint of shock in his eyes. He only had one ray of Ling Tang Hao's sword energy left. Using that less than 1% of the sword energy was already his limit. The four of them continued to descend down the ravine. As for the dangerous places Wang Lin found with the crystal from Beilu, they were able to get past with help of Zhou, though it was a bit slow. During these times, both Zhao Yiquan and Su Fei helped a lot, especially Zhao Yiquan. This woman's spells were very mysterious. It often looked like nothing had happened, but the spell's true power would silently display itself. In comparison, Su Fei seemed somewhat inadequate. However, after Wang Lin's doubts arose, he observed more carefully. The more he saw, the more he was sure of his theory. I didn't expect to meet someone from that sect here. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and no longer paid them any attention. As long as they didn't provoke him, he didn't want to expose those two women's secret. As for Zhou, his spells even made Wang Lin raise his eyebrows. His spells were extremely varied. Even until now, Wang Lin hadn't seen him use the same spell twice. Wang Lin believed that with his cultivation, he could win against Zhou with the cost of injury. It would be different if he used treasures, but how could Zhou not have any treasures too? If Zhou's escape spells were as amazing as the short old man's, and if Zhou wanted to escape, Wang Lin wouldn't be able to catch him. That short old man's origin soul is sealed and trapped inside the soul flag. After saving Zhou and dealing with matters of the Tide Abyss, I need to spend some time to cultivate these spells. On this day, with the help of Zhou, the two of them worked together and finally reached the middle lower part of the Tide Abyss. Wang Lin's heart trembled, but he immediately suppressed it. Not even the crystal from Beilu could see below this part. However, Wang Lin's target was very close. According to ancient demon Beilu, he sensed Zhou here. However, even with Beilu's power, he couldn't pinpoint Zhou's location. Wang Lin clasped his hands. "Brother Murong, I have other things to do, so I won't be following you guys down." He pondered a bit before looking at Zhou's calm face and saying, "I'm happy to be able to meet Brother Murong on this trip down the Tide Abyss. If you need me for something in the future, please feel free to ask." It was extremely rare for Wang Lin to say these things with his personality. Although this Zhou rarely spoke, he never held back when he needed to act and was never overtaken by greed. Wang Lin didn't say much more. Zhou revealed a rare smile as he nodded at Wang Lin and silently flew down. Wang Lin pondered a bit and sent a voice transmission to Zhou. "Brother Murong, be careful of the two women. If I'm not mistaken, they should be people from the corpse sect. One of them must be a corpse with an origin soul already awakened." Zhou didn't look at the women or do anything to suggest he even heard Wang Lin. He continued to descend, but no one noticed that his eyes lit up for a moment, and he became more on guard. He had heard of the corpse sect. That sect was far more powerful than most cultivation countries. Almost every cultivation country would have a branch of the corpse sect. They were simply too powerful. The two women also said their goodbyes and flew down. However, Su Fei randomly played with her hair. A strand of hair flew off and affixed itself on the cliff. After the three of them disappeared off into the distance, Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and his gaze fell on the cliff in the distance. He extended his right hand, and the strand of hair flew toward him and was caught between his fingers. "It looks like my warning was not enough." Wang Lin let out a cold snort and rubbed his finger. The strand of hair caught fire, but the fire was green. A strand of divine sense came out of the hair, but before it could condense, Wang Lin spat out a mouthful of origin energy. The divine sense immediately collapsed after colliding with the origin energy. While descending the tide abyss, Su Fei's body trembled, blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, and her eyes contained a trace of fear.